than even what his percentage showed. And he did that in Iowa, too. And people have got to go. They've got to be involved, and they've got to be delegates. That way, when they try to steal it from Ron Paul or whatever coming up at the convention, Ron Paul people can basically do a lot of things. They could force Ron Paul onto the VP. He probably wouldn't do that with somebody like Romney, and Romney wouldn't do that. I mean, who knows what can happen? They keep telling us he can't win, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that, well, we just expect he can't. But we see that we're on the verge of breaking that hoax right now. And and we can make the hoax fully fall. We've blown big holes in it, but it hadn't fallen completely. It will then boomerang and backfire like judo on the globalist, and will send Ron Paul over the top. All right, we'll be right back with more of your phone calls. And we've got a guest come up in about 15 minutes. Stay with us. Ron Paul, for 35 years or so, has been trying to wake people up about liberty. Then he got challenged to run for Congress. And look now where he is and what he's done. Think of what you're going to do by being involved. You got to think big, but long term. And as long as you wake just a few people up, like the caller said earlier, and know that others are doing that, it's just exponential. And I talk to people in grocery stores. I talk to people at restaurants. I talk to people at the park. I mean, people come up to me, hey, who are already awake. I take time to talk to them because I appreciate the fact that they care about reality. I appreciate the fact that we're growing our numbers to face down this evil. Yeah, the government's passing laws saying it can arrest us and throw away the key. That just proves they're a bunch of crooks. It shouldn't scare us because we already knew they were crooks. They're just making sure and confessing. Publicly confessing. You should be afraid of not facing them down and getting people ready to defeat these people. You don't protect yourself from tyrants by running and hiding. They always run wild in countries where people roll over. We're not going to roll over. You're like, yeah, but the public's a bunch of sheep. If 30, 40, 50% doesn't know how to brush their teeth, it's not our fault. They're not in the game. You go to a basketball game, there's 10,000 people in the stands. But there's a fraction of that on the floor. Okay? So I'm going to say it again, folks. Engage. Get involved. That's what it's going to take. Let's go to Gary in Ohio. Gary, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. What are you talking about? Let's get engaged. Let's do it right now. People who study the New World Order, I understand there's different factions within the New World Order. And if you study them very deeply, you understand there's one thing they can't lie about, and that's dates. You talked about Al-Qaeda being a Pentagon puppet before. Well, if you look at the date Al-Qaeda was established, August 11th, 1988, remember that number 11, because the two biggest attacks in Al-Qaeda's history, what they're known for, is an attack on 9/11, which around the world is known as 9/11, and an attack 911 days later in Madrid on 3/11. When you go around and you look at the New World Order, you notice they start planning attacks on certain days, Alex. And since you're born on the 11th, I'm sure you understand a little bit.
You know, I know that the global controllers are totally obsessed with numerology, and they really believe in it. I don't spend my time in things like that one way or the other. I mean, I know they believe in it. I know they think it's sacred geometry and all this stuff. But there's also a lot of big dates where people think things are going to happen and they don't. But I know Madrid, it even came out in the Spanish papers, was a government operation. They were running an anti-terror drill. It turned out it was the cops that did it. And then they blew up some patsies in a building to blame it on them. I know 7/7, the head guy was MI6, who was running the patsies. It appears they were part of a drill. Some of them escaped, so they were shot at Canary Wharf. That all came out in the news, but was buried. The British government actually arrested the guy that made a video about it, exposing it. Incredible. But I actually went over to London right after it happened to cover it. We covered it in my film Terror Storm. But that's basically it. I mean, on the issue of dates, I just look at the facts of the case versus what dates they do it. I mean, look at 7/7, 3/11, 9/11. You're right. Anything else?
Well, if you look at, well, there's different days of doing it. If you look at, like, not just the 11th, the 29th, 2 + 9 = 11. That's the day they crashed the Wall Street on 10/29/1929. If you look at last year, on your birthday, they ousted Mubarak on 2/11, and that ousting Mubarak.
Tell you what, stay there. We'll come back and talk about it on the other side. All right, Stewart Rhodes is coming up as a constitutional lawyer to look at the fact that you can't legalize tyranny. Look at the NDAA, Ron Paul, and more. We'll continue with your calls. Gary in Ohio, finishing up with you. Yes, I know, going back to the Babylonians, Egyptians, you name it, they are obsessed with numerology. And you're certainly right about that, but you were going over the number 11 itself.
Well, in certain factions within the New World Order, they're very obsessed with doing things on certain dates because they understand 11 deals with vibrational energy. Now, and it deals with emotional energy. You are an emotional person. You're born on the 11th. They do things on the 11th, 29, 2 + 9 = 11, because they get an emotional reaction out of people. It goes very deep. Now, you know a little bit about history, so let me just give you the story. On 11/11, at exactly 11 o'clock, the Great War ended. They made sure they ended it on 11/11 at exactly 11 o'clock because you can't have peace on 11. Not possible. Now, if you're into numerology, you understand this, but here's how the story goes. From that peace treaty, there was a country created called the Second Republic of Poland. It was created on 11/11. What country was used to start World War II? Poland.
Poland, yeah.
Exactly, when the Russians and the Nazis invaded. Now, we're looking at World War III of Iran. Interesting enough, Iran, an Islamic republic, was created on your birthday, Alex, 2/11. You see how they put all the connecting pieces into place. JFK, he tried to break the back of the Federal Reserve on 6/4/1963. If you add up the dates, 6/4/1963, add up to 29, 2 + 9 = 11. He signed Executive Order 11/11 that day, 11110. He waited to that day to sign it because he was trying to use numerology to break the Federal Reserve's back. And by the way, JFK was born on the 29th, 2 + 9 = 11. We can go into politics about this. Barack Obama, born 8/4/1961, 8/4/1961, adds up to 29, 2 + 9 = 11. Look at all the people from the Democratic side. Bill Clinton, born 8/19/1946, add everything up, 38, 3 and 8, 11. John McCain, born on the 29th. Sarah Palin, born on the 11th. You see how they pick their puppets?
Yeah, how are they using numerology if they just so happen to be born on day? I guarantee you I wasn't involved in any conspiracy.
No. People who are born on the 11th and the 29th and who are 11th, they have a certain level of charisma about them. Like you. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm not trying to laugh at you. It's just that the elite, I know, we're really into numerology. And I probably should study it more before I laugh. It's just, I mean, if this is true, then the people running things are just out of their minds. But I know that they make movies about what they're going to do before they do it. Take Fox TV, had basically the exact same thing that really happened on 9/11 on TV 6 months before, where the government hijacks a jet by remote control to blame it on Al-Qaeda, to fly it into the World Trade Center to attack Afghanistan, but they use a drill to make NORAD stand down. And then I even talked to the host of the show, and he said, yeah, the CIA approached us and would plant these plots on us. And then the question is, well, why did they want people to know what they were going to do before they did it? And the answer is they're into it, lesser magic. They believe that if they tell you what they're going to do before they do it, that gives it like good hoodoo or whatever when they really do it. And it's crazy. But then people say, well, look, they're in control. There must be something to it. It's just that I know they're into all this stuff. I just don't spend a lot of time looking into it because it's a riddle wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a McDonald's cheeseburger package. I mean, I just don't know where it's going or what to do. I mean, it just gives me a headache. I just Oh, man, I'm not really a very superstitious person, but I don't open umbrellas inside. I don't walk under ladders. I put my horseshoes, feet standing up, and I do knock on wood. Why do I do that?
Network.
All right, I still haven't gotten to it, but it's the video of out in Los Angeles, a sheriff's deputy punching a now on record mentally handicapped woman because she dared say, oh, you're the big man telling me get off the bus. And people said she got on, was very polite, didn't do anything wrong. So now beating up bag ladies is what's going on. And the cop comes over and gets in the guy's face who's videotaping it. And again, this just illustrates how this has become the norm. And people watch this around the world, even in third world countries, where their police don't act like this and say, what's happened to America? The question is, what happened to the American people to just put up with this? Now, Stewart Rhodes heads up Oath Keepers. He's a constitutional lawyer, worked in Ron Paul's staff as well, and, of course, former Army veteran, a paratrooper who was retired out of the military in a parachuting accident. And he wrote his thesis in college on the history of basically military dictatorships and America's role and history in that with Lincoln and Stanton and what brought about posse comitatus. So we're going to be discussing that history and now how it ties into NDAA. But then I will, before he leaves, I promise we'll get to Rob and Sean and many others that are listening on stations like WJOC 1490 AM in Tennessee. We'll talk to Sean and others that are holding. And I do have some other news I want to get to as well. But to give us a condensed history of it, because those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it, Stewart Rhodes joins us. I thought that I would add one more point to this, too. I shot a video, but you can simply search the term for NDAA is a hoax. You cannot legalize tyranny. Now, tyrants can criminally carry it out, if not resist it, both through information warfare, the truth, and physically if your back's against the wall. I mean, Hitler didn't have really the legal standing to go into Poland, but he did. Or to go into France, but he did, because he had people that would follow his criminal orders. Same thing with the Redcoats. Same thing with white abolitionists who were hung by the hundreds for trying to free black slaves. Their argument was, as a Christian, I don't believe that these people are animals, and I think they're free souls and should be free. They called them kooks and nuts and lunatics, but in the end, their sacrifice came out on top, and that's what scares evil. That's why I always want you to think it's invincible. And so they might try to carry out secret arrest of citizens, disappearing us into black sites, black holes, but it only convicts the establishment as just as bad as we thought they were and verifies everything we've said, and they're basically tattling on themselves. They're confessing in their hubris, in their attempt to intimidate people. They've gone from just lying about New World Order to going, yeah, you bet. We're spying on patriots. Yeah, we'll arrest you. Yeah, we're getting ready for some new terror attacks we're going to blame on you. I mean, Democrats are putting out all these policy reports saying, gee, Oklahoma sure helped us. A new one's coming, and we're going to arrest everybody. I mean, that's even on Fox News. So now they've moved into kind of a cornered, hissing